Wow. Uh, I've been here several times. I live here, and I don't think I've ever stood at this spot of I Have a Dream speech. August 28th, 1963. I Have a Dream. Martin Luther King Jr. The March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Wow. We still have that dream. That's what we're still fighting for, jobs and freedom. African Americans in this country are frustrated, absolutely frustrated. The cruelty that was on display, Floyd and being kneeled into, and that police officer's knee behind his neck suffocating him, and we're watching his death juxtaposed against years and years of similar protests really shows that we haven't moved all that far away from those moments. And so people are just frustrated. They said, my father had to deal with this. My mother had to deal with it. My great-grandmother had to deal with this. And it's still upon us. When will it end?
Justice! Now! Justice! Now!
Protests in 2020 is different in this regard. You had a major health crisis in COVID. The places in which Black people are dying at a higher rate are places with lower housing quality, are places with higher unemployment, higher incidence of racial discrimination in the job market, higher levels of discrimination in the housing market. All of these factors that policy created. Policy made Black communities more vulnerable to the spread of COVID. And that's been made obvious. And so this moment has just punctuated the role that structural inequality plays in our life. The median of wealth of white Americans is $170,000. The median wealth for Black Americans is $17,000, so a tenth of white Americans. Unemployment rate has always been double for Blacks than for white. Black communities see the $23 billion less in school funding. Blacks are pulled over 2.5 to 3 times more in communities by police. They understand these numbers. They feel the numbers. They live these numbers. These are not just academic figures. There's tears behind every single statistic. I did a study that looked at housing prices in Black majority neighborhoods and compared those to neighborhoods where those share of the Black population was less than 1%. And what I found simply astounding. We controlled for education, we controlled for crime, we controlled for walkability, meaning that we had an apples to apples comparison between a Black home or home in a Black neighborhood and a home in a white neighborhood. And homes in Black neighborhoods were devalued, undervalued by 23%, about $48,000 per home. Accumulatively, that's $156 billion in lost equity. What people don't realize, that's the money that people use to start businesses, to send their kids to college. It's used for municipalities to finance education and to improve infrastructure. It's all the resources that people use to lift themselves up. But that money is extracted because of the perceptions of the neighborhood. For me, this is not an academic exercise. I've been there, I understand it. I grew up in Wilkinsburg, Pennsylvania, a small Black municipality. My father was incarcerated and he was murdered in prison. When I was born, my mother gave me to this older woman, Elsie Boyd, and I was informally adopted. My older brother at the time came along with me. My younger brother eventually came. We grew up very poor. We shared clothes. When I look at my yearbook, I stopped counting on the number of folks that have gone to prison or jail. I say I got lucky because there are lots of people smarter, more driven, but they made a mistake. And one mistake in the Black community can mean a complete downfall for the rest of your lifetime. I feel that pain. I feel the pain, and it's real. You feel it. It takes years off our lives. Structural racism is so baked into policy that it takes years, if not decades, of investing in anti-racist policy and structure while removing old policies with that racist frame. It takes years of that. It's not going to come about with a few pieces of legislation during a historic period of time as it did with the civil rights legislation in the 60s. Yes, those are major milestones, and we made some advancements, but you see how long it is taking for those pieces of legislation to take hold. It takes a consistent commitment to anti-racist legislation and investments in black people if we're going to see a true change.